That was sports writer Christian Winfield, who knows a thing or two about the Knicks, and that news that he gave us is fairly sad. I am here on WOR AM Radio 710 on your digital dial with my producer in the studio, Tony Simone. You can reach Tony at TonySimone.com if you'd like to learn more about what they do at Stribling and Associates. Now, meanwhile, we have an author on the phone, Matthew Palmer, who's written a book, The WOLF of Sarajevo. This is his third international thriller, and Matt was in the Foreign Service. I remember growing up and watching like movies from the 50s about the Foreign Service, and it was always like these cool guys that wore tweed suits and spoke with accents, often British, and they smoked pipes a lot too, but I don't think that was really realistic. Matt, what can you tell us about serving your country in such a manner and writing this book?
Well, I guess the first thing I should tell you, Rob, is that I'm still in the Foreign Service.
You still are? Okay. I blew
that.
So
I'm active duty and writing books, which itself is...
Are you allowed to do
challenge.
that? If it's a novel, I guess it's okay?
Yeah, I have to submit it for review by the department. They look at it to see if I've let anything classified slip through into my fiction.
Right.
And occasionally they ask me to change a thing or two, and I've been able to accommodate without losing too much of the story. But what I really wanted to do when I first started doing this is that I wanted to give the American public kind of a better sense of what it is that diplomats do. You did, I think, an excellent job of summarizing what our image is, and the truth couldn't be any further from that. Many of my colleagues, myself included, we've been out there serving in difficult and dangerous places, trying to advance the interests of the United States in circumstances that are often pretty uncomfortable without a tweed coat or a pipe for
Right.
hundreds of miles.
Right. The movies, they always make it seem like you had a lot of downtime and went to private clubs and sat around and smoked and drank cognac.
I think maybe in the 19th century there was some truth.
Right.
But
now you're in war-torn
war-torn
nations, right?
And more to the point that in popular culture, the diplomats are always getting kind of the short end of the stick. That the heroes are the spies and the soldiers, and the diplomats are the ones who are compromising, cutting soulless deals with the devil, or selling out their colleagues, the sneaky ones. And again, the truth is 180 degrees from that. They are, my colleagues, among the most honorable, straightforward, and upright folks that I know.
Well, you mentioned in the production notes, the job of a diplomat requires empathy. You need to understand where other people, other cultures are coming from and what their narratives are. So what was your preparation like before you went into Foreign Service? You don't major, well, I guess, do they have diplomacy majors? I think Tufts has
Georgetown.
Tufts has a school of diplomacy, right?
Yeah.
They do. There's Tufts. Georgetown has the School of Foreign Service. So there are some professional training opportunities. But I have colleagues who came from all sorts of backgrounds. We have people who have broad international experience. We have people who came from the business world, people who came from academia, lawyers, even a few medical doctors. I think the one thing that would tie everyone together is that folks in this line of work, not just in the American service, but more broadly, spent a lot of years in school before they started this, by and large. My own background was in East Asia. So I joined having done nothing but Asia my entire academic and professional life. And if you'll indulge me, I'll tell you a short story.
Please do.
That I think you'll find amusing and that says something about the nature of government. So we have a tradition called Flag Day, where you join the service and you're with your incoming cohort of junior diplomats, and they call your name. You stand up in front of the group, and they tell you where you're going to go for your first post of assignment. They want to see if you cry when they say something like Lagos.
Right.
So I'm an Asian.
You mean not Paris?
Not Paris. You're not going to Paris. You're going to Lagos. You're going to Baghdad.
Right.
They want to see how well you take the news when you hear about it in public. So they call my name, and I stood up in front of my little group of colleagues. And they said, Matt Palmer, Beijing. I'm very excited about this. I'm going to learn Chinese. I'm going to go off to Beijing. It's a great job. Part of the tradition that night is we went out to a bar in Washington called the Brickskeller that served beers of the world, and I drank Qingdao until 3 o'clock in the morning. And the next day I get a call from Human Resources at 8 o'clock. I'm still a little fuzzy. And the guy says, Matt, this Beijing job shouldn't have been on the list. It's being eliminated. How do you feel about Belgrade? And I said to the guy, again, I'm a little fuzzy, is that next alphabetically? And to his credit, the guy says, no, it's Beirut. We don't have any openings there. And so they taught me Serbo-Croatian and shipped me off to the Balkans, and it changed my life. And it was a completely random event.
What year was this? Was it prior to the breakup?
This was during the breakup.
During the breakup.
I arrived in Belgrade in 1993 at the height of the Bosnian War.
Wow.
It was a very exciting time to be a diplomat in the Balkans. We were on the front page of every newspaper in the world every day.
Sure.
And we were the front lines for the United States. And it was a fabulous professional experience. And it was a pretty awful environment for the folks who are living there. And one of the terrible things about diplomacy, as is true in journalism, the worse things are for the folks at issue, often the more exciting it is for you.
Well, exactly. That was a big joke years and years ago at CBS News when Larry Tisch bought CBS, and he came to the Paris bureau and he was furious. He said, "But none of these reporters are doing anything. Just sitting around smoking cigarettes, and someone's waiting for a story." You know,
waiting for a story.
When there's a story,
we didn't have to wait for stories in the Balkans.
No, but I think you had a pretty full plate. What was your day like? Give us an insight into that.
Well, the real hunger on the part of the Washington policymakers was for information. What's going on? And in particular, what was going on in the Serbian-controlled parts of Bosnia? What was happening in what was then called, and still called, Republika Srpska. And we didn't have much in the way of access. So the best source of information for what was happening in Srpska and what was happening in the Serb-controlled parts of Croatia, which is called the Krajina, was actually out of Belgrade. And so we were trying to gather information. We were trying to figure out what the hell's happening, and then develop a picture and report back to Washington. This is what's happening on the political front. This is what's happening in the strategic environment, and this is what it means for the United States. And then the other big part, of course, is trying to engage local power structures and influence them, to get them to understand how we look at it and to see things our way and to incorporate our views and our interests and our objectives into their thought process and their decision making. And that was very, very hard to do in the Milosevic era in Belgrade.
Now, the ethnic divisions in Bosnia is hundreds and hundreds of years old, right? It didn't just start with this conflict. Hasn't there always been ethnic strife in this region?
You know, that's a story that I think was put out in the 1990s, and I think there's some truth to that, but I think it's also exaggerated.
Mm-hmm.
That, sure, people fought over the years, over the centuries, but they also got along over the years and over the centuries. Intermarriage was common. People considered themselves Yugoslav first and foremost. And what I think you saw happening in the very early part of the breakup of Yugoslavia is individuals seizing on ethnic nationalism as a route to power.
So demagogues.
The demagogues, they promoted it. They promoted this kind of vision of eternal strife and us against them and
spreading fear.
Exactly.
Sounds familiar, but we're going to stay away from politics in this episode.
Let's plug the book.
Plug the book, yes.
The Wolf of Sarajevo by Matthew Palmer, and it's published by G.P. Putnam Sons, and it's going to be available on May 24th at whatever bookstores are left in the world and Amazon.com. And
there's more bookstores out there than you might think. They're making a comeback.
I hope so. I love walking around Barnes and Noble. I think. Well, you're going to be in a few different places too. If you want to tell us about any of that, Scottsdale, Arizona, Boston, Mass.
That's right. I'm going to be at the Poison Pen in Scottsdale on May 25, and I'm going to be in Brookline at the Brookline Booksmith in Massachusetts on May 31st. And both of those are going to be particular fun for me because I'm going to do them with my brother, who's also a novelist and who has a novel coming out the same day as mine. And so we have a little a brothers book tour that
That's
we go
cool.
on.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us. And I'm halfway into the book, and I love it. I really recommend that people go out and purchase The Wolf of Sarajevo, and that you join us again on the show sometime.
Thanks for having me, Rob. I appreciate it.
Good luck.
Take care.
Matt.